Well, a very good weekend morning to you, Westplex Radio. It's great to be with you, Steve Casper, and the show that's got everybody talking because it's all about nutrition. What about nutrition? Every weekend at this time, and with David Gall of O'Fallon Nutrition, a lot of exciting things happening there with their new location. So for the next half hour, sit back, relax, learn, because it's all going to be for the betterment of you and your family and your lifestyle, your health style. Welcome to What About Nutrition, the show that explores the link between nutrition and optimum health and asks the overlooked question, what about nutrition in your life? Every day there's more scientific evidence and research regarding the critical importance of nutrition for the promotion of optimum health. On this show, we'll focus actually on dietary supplements, herbs, vitamins, and homeopathic remedies, what they are, what they do, and how to use them. We'll also discuss diet, exercise, and other aspects of living a healthy lifestyle in the 21st century. Your host sitting beside me is my friend David Gall, owner of O'Fallon Nutrition, a graduate of Washington University and Huntington College of Health Sciences Comprehensive Nutrition Program. And, of course, always consult your health care practitioner before beginning any new supplements or other changes to your lifestyle. The purpose of the show is to inform, educate, and entertain, not to diagnose, treat, or prevent any disease. Well, good morning, sir. How are you doing?
I'm doing pretty well today, Steve. How about yourself?
I'm doing great. I've lost about 10 pounds again.
Wow.
on the things that you and I have been talking about.
Right.
And in fact, the products that I get from O'Fallon Nutrition, I feel so good with the regimen that you and I selected for me, and I feel like $1 million, really.
I'm glad to hear that. I mean, I was thinking when you told me that right before the show that you had mentioned that you'd lost this 10 pounds. I was thinking, it's so great because you're executing on reducing the carbohydrate intake at night.
Yep,
We've got some good supplements going. We're doing some hormonal support.
The hormonal support too. I noticed because of the testosterone. A lot of men who are age 40 plus don't realize that testosterone, which helps your muscle mass and less fat.
Yes.
The older the less testosterone a man has, he develops more fat and less muscle. And
it's true, and your body starts to shift, and as you have more fat, the fat makes estrogen, which we hate to even mention in regards to men, but men make some estrogen too. Mm-hmm. And when we gain weight, our body fat makes more of it, and that's another kind of secret trick that I like to employ, even when we work with, and our listening audience ought to be aware that I do work with a couple of professional natural bodybuilders, and they're wonderful guinea pigs for studying this kind of stuff, and they're so much more disciplined than I am, frankly, in terms of their exercise and diet, that we can say to one of these bodybuilders, hey, let's use a little bit of this herb chrysin that prevents testosterone from converting to estrogen, and let's see if your pecs, which already look better than mine, look even better and have less fat in them, for example.
And of course, that's one of the pills that I take is the chrysin.
It's a secret trick.
Yeah, it's great stuff, and all this is well researched, and basically it's allowing your body to develop the things that you want and not develop the things you don't want.
Right, exactly. We can use a little bit of knowledge of nutrition to kind of counteract things that, change with age that we don't want to change as much, and also promote, optimum health in other areas and really provide balance.
So, folks, get over to O'Fallon Nutrition, their brand new location right south of I-70, Highway K. Take Highway K to Mexico Road right there. There's a big Walmart there, but you don't turn into Walmart. You get right on Mexico Road, turn right, and then there's a strip center right up on your right-hand side, and on the far left of that strip center is O'Fallon Nutrition. You'll see the big red and white sign. Now that I took over half your show, but what's our topic for today?
Well, I thought, with the season and what I'm seeing with folks coming into the store is it's a good time to talk about allergies again, and all the hay fever and allergic rhinitis and all this other fun stuff that's happening. And, of course, we barely had a winter this year, so apparently we're just transitioning from this really extended autumn that we just had into basically spring/summer, it feels like.
Sure.
And I've already seen more folks than usual coming into the store this year, complaining of all these different, allergy symptoms and rhinitis and things like that.
Okay.
So I thought what we would do today with the show is talk a little bit about the concept first that what we eat affects our allergies, because I see that a lot of folks that come into the store aren't very aware of that. So I can give everybody listening some tips that might help them have a little less likelihood to react to so many things. And then, of course, we can also talk about supplements and herbal and nutrient options to support the immune system during this time, so that perhaps it's less reactive to the things that get into our bloodstream that we can't avoid, like air and pollen and dander and all that other fun stuff.
Yeah.
So basically, Steve, in regards to the food that we eat and allergies, let me paint a picture for everybody. We'll see folks coming into the store that they'll say, "Oh my gosh, I have all of these allergy symptoms and rhinitis, and my nose is stuffed up, or my nose is running, and I'm coughing." And you folks out there know the different kinds of symptoms that people can have. And often when we ask them about their diet, it's not unusual for these folks to be consuming pretty large amounts of sugar, refined things like white flour, which of course is a source of gluten. They're often consuming a lot of inflammatory fats. The vegetable oil and the soybean oil that we cook with and use in salad dressings is inflammatory, and allergies are an inflammatory response. Sugar is inflammatory. Gluten, for some people, is inflammatory, as well as the fact that a lot of folks' diets aren't providing some of the other things that can provide balance to our immune response to allergies. Those would be things like, even boring stuff like sufficient vitamin C, omega-3 fatty acids, which are raw material to make anti-inflammatory compounds known as prostaglandins in the body. Folks aren't consuming usually very large amounts of the good bacteria that we talk about all the time, the probiotics that live in our gut, which in studies have been shown to help modulate the immune system. And modulate's a fancy term for, kind of normalize its reaction. When we're talking about allergies, to some extent, we're talking about overreactions of the immune system.
Sure.
So I want everybody to be aware in the last 5 minutes of part one here, if we reduce our intake of inflammatory foods during allergy season, typically you're going to see some benefit from that. It'll be different from person to person, but I think everybody will see some sort of benefit from reduction of sugar, reduction of alcohol. If you can, try to be aware of the inflammatory fats that are coming into your body. There's sources like your cooking oils and salad dressing that are probably the biggest sources.
Yep.
Be aware of whether or not you're eating a lot of white flour or wheat in general. And some folks may want to test drive going off of wheat or dairy for about 3 to 5 days and see if their symptoms calm down. I mentioned dairy because dairy is a source of the protein casein, which is the main protein in milk.
Yeah.
And casein is implicated in issues such as asthma. It's not something that I can describe as a cause or anything like that, but there are a lot of correlations between casein intake and incidences of asthma, particularly in children. And what we're talking about today does apply to kids as well, we should mention. So if we can reduce our intake of white flour or even wheat in general, if we can reduce our intake of sugar, be careful with alcohol, try to get some good fats, cooking fats like olive oil, virgin coconut oil, macadamia oil as alternatives to these inflammatory ones. Consume some probiotics through plain yogurt or through good dietary supplements or both. Get some vegetables. Get some fruit such as berries, particularly your low-sugar fruits, which would be the berry family. Those are going to be sources of vitamin C and other compounds called flavonoids that actually have been shown in multiple studies to have antihistamine properties.
So the berry family, which are grapes and grapes included in that?
That's a wonderful question, Steve.
Like big
technically,
berries.
No, they're not. They are like big berries, but no.
But they have more sugar in
grapes
them,
are different. Yeah, more sugar. So your berries are going to be easiest way to know is if it's got the word berry in a name, you're pretty safe. So strawberries, blueberries, elderberries are particularly useful and often sold as a juice supplement in stores like ours. Raspberries would be great. And then there's all these exotic berries like goji berries and gooseberries and things like that, which we do actually carry now at O'Fallon Nutrition, but
wow.
My intention was just to refer to berries in general.
Yep.
So folks should be aware that the different foods that we consume have an effect on whether or not our immune system is primed to respond in a particularly aggressive way to these allergens. And when I say respond in an aggressive way, what I'm referring to is releasing lots of histamine and leukotrienes. When we consume foods that trigger an allergy, what is happening, or when things in the air trigger it, through our intestine or through the air, it's eventually getting into our bloodstream.
Right.
And when these allergens get into our bloodstream, what happens is our immune system releases a whole bunch of a chemical called IgE, immunoglobulin E. And immunoglobulin E turns on these cells called mast cells. And mast cells' job is, once they've been activated by this IgE, they release tons of histamine.
Okay.
And then you start getting all of these symptoms.
Right. Mm-hmm.
So what we want to do is we want to have a healthy gut. Eating the way that we're describing encourages a healthy gut so that fewer allergens pass into it. And we want our immune system to be less primed to be inflamed in the first place, which means a low inflammatory diet. Mm-hmm. And that generally refers to low sugar, reduced intake of things like grains, increased intakes of sources of foods with good fats in them, meats like salmon.
So in other words, almost cut back on carbs with carbohydrates turn into sugar.
Right. Mm-hmm. So especially your refined carbs, your better carbs would be your legumes like lentils and beans, your sweet potatoes, your brown rice, your oatmeal, your quinoa, things of that nature. Okay. They're much slower to convert to sugar, less inflammatory. And when we get back in part 2, what we can talk about are various supplements that can actually reduce the reaction of those cells we just mentioned to allergens. And this is where it gets really exciting.
All right, folks, you're listening to What About Nutrition on Westplex Radio this weekend. Thanks for tuning in. We're going to come back with part 2 and continue to talk about allergies and also the new store in O'Fallon, Missouri, O'Fallon Nutrition's new location. And, of course, they're located at Highway K, Mexico Road. And now you've got food there. And
that's right.
That's kind of a new addition to that. And
we have sources of these foods that are less likely to be inflammatory. A lot of gluten-free, a lot of bulk nuts and beans and all that cool stuff. So thanks for mentioning that.
Everybody's talking about allergies, folks. So if this is your first time tuning in, we appreciate it. Look for our postings on Facebook every weekend about the shows. If you're not a Facebook fan, go do a search on Westplex 100.7 or an O'Fallon Nutrition.
Yeah.
And like us both. We want you to like us. We'll be right back with part 2 on Westplex Radio for What About Nutrition.